facts, they do tell lies. Facts don't lie. Facts tell the truth. That's not always true. And here's what I mean by that. TomBerkenmeyer.com, by the way, is my website, just like it's spelled here on social media. TomBerkenmeyer.com. Mostly about natural health. Sometimes this stuff. So facts do tell lies. Let me give you an example right off the bat. So a common one that's as of in the news lately, I remember as of last June, wages were up, and people that are citing, we have a great economy because wages are up. But they would neglect to say that inflation is up too. So it's true, it's a true fact, wages were up 2.8%, but inflation was up 2.9%. So real wages were down. And that's a perfect example of someone using a fact to tell a lie. So if someone doesn't also disclose the fact that, yeah, wages are up, but inflation is up greater than wages, therefore wages are really down. So that's the whole picture. That's the truth. So another example of this, a common one in the news lately that's still going to this day, is GDP, gross domestic product output, is up. The economy is doing great because GDP is up. Well, GDP doesn't make a discernment between the production of products, between computers and automation or human beings. GDP just measures gross domestic product. So if we're making more product this year than we were last year, GDP is up. And it doesn't take into account if it's being made by more computers, more automation, or human beings, or whatever. So right off the bat, that's the problem with using GDP as an accurate measurement of how the workers are doing. In fact, GDP could be up while workers' wages are down, which is what we have right now. So again, it's one of those things. You could cite a fact that's true, but in its context of telling the truth, it's a lie unless you have these other interrelatable facts. So facts are interrelatable, and when there is another fact that's relevant to another fact, you have to disclose those relevant facts. Otherwise, you're using facts to tell a lie. And that's what people do. That's what politicians do. That's what the media does. But that's not what honest-to-God truth seekers do. An honest-to-God truth seeker is going to say, we'll go back to the examples. Wages are up by 2.8%, but inflation is up by 2.9%. Wages are down. A liar is going to know this information and say wages are up without disclosing inflation. A liar is going to say that GDP is up, therefore the economy is good, workers are doing great. A truth teller is going to say GDP is up, but wages are down, workers are doing bad, and GDP doesn't take into account computers and automation and all those things. So don't let people lie to you citing facts and then giving them that plausible deniability that facts don't lie. No, facts do lie depending on the person telling them if they're putting it in context or not putting it in context. And I've got friends who do this. To this day, they're still my friends somehow. But I've got friends who do this, and I've got non-friends who do this, and we see it all the time in the news and with politicians and so forth. President Pinocchio does this, but that's nothing special. Most politicians do this. Bernie Sanders does not do this. You can agree with him or disagree with him. I'm happy to have disagreements with somebody like Bernie Sanders. He's a very rare politician in that he actually puts facts in their context, whether it makes him look good or bad, and that's a good thing. So he's someone I'm happy to have disagreements with as well as agreements. It's a conversation that isn't toxic and can be equal. A conversation with a liar such as President Pinocchio or people who just tell lies and use facts to tell lies, I'm not interested in what they say. They're toxic and they're not equal. They're inferior. And President Pinocchio is the king inferior of them all. He's the most corrupt of them all, takes the most bribery money of any politician in the country right after running a whole campaign promising us that he wouldn't. So he's actually telling lies with no plausible deniability because he's also very stupid. And at least a sly person will have that buffer to give them plausible deniability so they can deny it later with something like, well, I just told a fact. If facts don't lie, that's true unless they're told out of context that represents the opposite of the truth, then they're using a fact to tell a lie. But President Pinocchio is so stunningly stupid, he doesn't install that buffer. He just flat out tells sloppy, brazen lies. And so he's really easy to catch, which means that MAGA people are bigger suckers than Obama people and Hillary people, because at least when somebody believes Obama or Hillary, as wrong as they are, those liars are more savvy about it. They have that plausible deniability. President Trump those people, MAGA people, are measurably much bigger suckers than Obama and Hillary people. It's amazing. They're all suckers, but they're not equal. MAGA people take the cake of being the biggest suckers on the planet. That's just the truth. So let me go, one more topic I want to hit on before I end this particular live feed. So GDP, an interesting thing. That used to be a really cool way to measure how workers are doing, especially the middle class. That was before 1971. So what happened in 1971? 1971 is the year that the United States government, under Nixon, took the dollar off the gold standard. And when that happened, the dollar changed from money to a currency. And when you change the dollar from money to a currency, it changes the rules and what it means and the consequences and so forth. But our public school system didn't change. So at that point, our public school system and colleges and universities are teaching things that are obsolete as of 1971. It used to work before 1971. When GDP would go up, wages would go up, workers would be doing better, and it kept pretty proportionate. But then after 1971, and it took a few years for it to really take effect after 1971, but as of 1971, the same year we took the dollar off the gold standard, that's the year that the middle class began shrinking, because that's when the rules of money changed, and our school system did not change what they were teaching. So at that point, everything became obsolete. And at that point, if you want to be poor, you follow that rule of thumb about treating the dollar as money. If you treat it as a currency, and go learn what that means. I'm not going to teach that in this video. I've got other videos where I teach that, and you can Google it. But if you don't change how you interact with money from the dollar from being money to a currency, then you're practicing old obsolete ideas, and that's how the middle shrinks and joins the poor. So it began shrinking the same year, 1971, not by coincidence. And in 2015, so a few years ago, that many years of shrinking from 71 to 2015, the middle went from the majority to the minority. So now the poor is the minority, the middle is the minority, and the rich is still the minority, but they've grown in size comparatively from where they were every year since then, which I think is actually cool that there's more rich people. But the middle shrinking to lesser numbers, that they're actually now the minority because they've joined the poor, which is now the majority as of 2015. That's a result of 1971, where the dollar became a currency and stopped being money, but our school system still taught it as if the dollar is still money, instead of reflecting the change that it's actually a currency. And so how do you learn about this then if they don't teach it in schools? Well, that's where you are either a curious person or you're not a curious person. So be curious, go out there on your own and learn about it. There's a lot of unaccredited schools out there and seminars and so forth. I go to them and I learn about these things. I read the right books, I have the right teachers, and so that's why I can do better than somebody who's still treating the dollar as though it's money when it's a currency. I treat it as it's a currency, so I can do well no matter what politics is doing or however the winds of politics is changing. And so do it. That's important. My website, tomberkenmeyer.com, I teach a lot of concepts based on that one thing. And that one thing is the one thing that can be traced to virtually all of our economic problems and income inequality and all those kinds of things. So, and that goes, I think I'm sort of veered off topic from the topic of this video, but it's kind of fun to jump around that way. So I hope you enjoyed that. And tomberkenmeyer.com is my website. I've got all kinds of content about that, as well as natural healing and all of my other interests. So I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to drop your comments below about what you think about all those things I just talked about. And if you got something you want to add, an observation you've made, go for it. And if you want to see what I've been doing to treat the dollar as a currency rather than as money, and to get ahead no matter what's happening in politics, President Pinocchio, possible President Bernie Sanders, or anyone else for that matter, I'm going to be fine because I treat the dollar as a currency rather than money, so I can play this game and do well regardless of how the winds of politics change. If you want to see what I've been doing since August of 2007, feel free to ask me about it. I typed up a beautiful blog about it, and I've got a video about it too. And you can look at it to see if you see an opportunity for yourself to finally get out of the thumb of politics pushing you around like a rag doll, right? And whatever's going on in the economic winds and how those winds change from time to time. If you don't want to be pushed around like a rag doll anymore, then I encourage you to ask me for that blog I typed up and see if you see something for yourself that would help you. Okay? Bye for now, everybody. Mwah. And stop using facts to tell a lie. Facts are interrelatable when they're relevant. Keep it in context. Thank you.